Hello, TCG here. Welcome. Looking ahead, series of breakdown analyze the meta, which happening over Japan and how will it impact Taiwan. Today, we're looking also at Gardevoir and why is it so strong in the Mega Evolution format over Japan. And of course, it came off a very impressive weekend with winning the Master Division at the Anaheim World Championships. But in Japan, it's also the most popular archetype in the Gym Challenge, a long shot. So we'll talk exactly how Mega Gardevoir really makes Gardevoir to be back up the very best deck to play right now. Plus, also some of the new cards as well, and new decks which have been dominating over Japan, like Mega Lucario, Mega Venusaur, and Mega Manectric, and some new cards really elevated some other decks like Charax and Symphasum. Plus, the brand new cards got revealed in the World Championship this past weekend, which Charizard definitely looks like can pack a huge punch going forward. So, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, of course, let's start by looking at the new cards. And of course, we'll have to talk about Mega Charizard X with 306 HP, which is a Fire-type Pokemon, which I think is really relevant right now in this format. Now, it does have an amazing attack, Inferno, which does 90 damage for 2 fire energy. You can discard any number of fire energies from your Pokemon in play, and does 90 damage for each fire energy you discard. Now, I always go with relevant of it. If you discard 4, you're doing 360 damage. It's KOing Megas, and more importantly, Mega Charizard X back in itself. So I think that's really strong. When we look at the other sort of base save, like the one to issue more damage from energy discard, Power only does 200 damage, and Raging Bolt does 280 damage. So I do think this is definitely a huge relevance or mass sort of increasing. Now, how on earth we get energies in play? Of course, there's that Charizard EX, with the Infernal Heart ability, that does energy straight away. So I think obviously there's a huge inclusion right now. You're already playing Charizard, why not play a Charizard EX? And it's a great attack option to hit into Gardevoir. But we got a new card as well, the Lucario EX, 198 feet, 100 feet, the Excited Turbo attack. It's often as you like during your turn. If you have any Fire Mega Pokemon EX in play, you may use this ability to attach a Fire Energy from your hand to one of your bench Fire Pokemon. Of course, this is incredibly powerful in this sort of deck. This is a great energy acceleration. This is basically the Excalibur, the Blastoise from most of these big, powerful water decks. Now, Fire has a very powerful one. Now, of course, we do have Ember in this format, but do we really want to put basically a third Stage 2 deck right now card in this deck? Not particularly. An Lucario is a basic Pokemon, which we put out whenever we want and can easily be searched out from like some Nest Ball and Ultra Ball. So I think this is very strong. Recovery cards, we have Superior Energy Retrieval, Charizard Ace-Spec potentially, and even Night Stretcher and Energy Retrieval. So you have multiple Scar energies back. Charizard EX looks like it's a turning point of a huge powerful archetype. Now if we see Mega Venusaur do really well, especially with Lush Forest, I think this is actually a good sort of answer to the style deck. Actually can help against some regular Charizard EX, so actually hitting what mostly gets hit for weakness, for their weakness as well. Now, we did get a reveal of another new Mega as well, which is Mega Dragonite EX. Honestly, this isn't as strong. It has a Sky Transport ability, which pretty much means once during a turn you make use ability, switch from your bench active Pokemon with your bench. Basically a free switch. There's no like Russian or anything like that, so you don't have to switch Dragonite in to get the retreat option. You can just switch any Pokemon you like. I do think that's very powerful. The attack for 1 Water, 2 Lightning does 330 damage. You discard 2 energy attached for this Pokemon. Honestly, not really that strong. I do see this being included in Regidrago over and expanded because we got replaced with that Salamander to do 300 damage. Not just chuck this one to 330, which obviously hits more relevance or mass numbers with with a Muscle Band or anything like that. You can do 350 damage, which is still really strong right now in this format. Over and expanded, I do think this potentially is going to be much stronger and expanded and not really see any new play. So overall, I did like the new Sword cards revealed. I do think Mega Charizard X is going to be a very powerful archetype. Of course, it's Charizard. So we've already seen a very powerful character deck. It's definitely going to replace what Charizard is right now. Now, let's have a look at the metagame and how it really has shifted in the Mega Evolution. So looking at last week, it is actually hugely tiny to see that Gardevoir is leaps and bounds above everything else, being 17.9% of all of the 1700s of results that got reported. That is a huge number right now, and generally it is so strong. It gained so many incredibly powerful cards. It gained a brand new rolls. It gained a very strong Curlier, which have a 10 more additional HP. Of course, that Mega Gardevoir EX would be great sort of closing to a digital more damage output in the late sort of game. Plus, also some good utility cards like Laser Determination, which you've got to see in a lot of decks right now, and that new Psychic Stadium card, which is an amazing draw pack for the deck. It gained so many good sort of pieces from Mega Evolution, and generally, rightly so. Well, it was already a very powerful archetype. It's become even stronger right now after of Mega Gardevoir EX. If you look at the rest of the A tier, basically the 8% and above, we can see like some Raging Bolt, Dragapult, Charizard, Goldengo, and Marnie's Grimmstar. Now, Marnie's Grimmstar, I feel like is definitely much more on a fraud watch for us right now after its pretty poor performance over in the World Championships. It clearly could be about why so many decks are playing Monkey Dory and it doesn't really want to compete. Looking at the B tier as well, I'm probably of the rogue sort of archetype, so basically the 5% or less. We're seeing likes of Mega Lucario, Mega Venusaur, Cerulege, Mega Manectric, Symphasum, Archadon, and Endozoroa. Looking at this metagame here, I generally think likes of Enterock was definitely going to see a lot more of an increase in play. Now, it didn't really gain, again, a lot of new sort of pieces. I think it gained a very good thing because it hits for weakness against a deck, which is nearly 20% of the metagame. Another sort of decks which kind of gained a lot more of the good sort of key pieces is Cerulege gaining a very good sort of discard and draw factor from the likes of the Unity Sorrow package, which obviously great to get into the discard pile and make sure you're doing additional more damage. Simply Scarchomp gained a ton of new stuff. I think the Fighting Gonk and the Power I think fairly strong right now to do additional more damage output and to really find a ways to get out your fighting energies, which this deck definitely really struggled. So I also pick key decks as well, like Archadon, gain likes of Mega Mara, and that brand new Stadium card, which you put additional more damage counters on for non-metal Pokemon, which I do think is really, really strong and can feel that monkey glory damage, which you can fling across to your opponent. Looking at this one, I just think Gardevoir is in such a great position right now. And let's actually not sort of bother looking at this one and actually talk about the list as well. So this is kind of like the main sort of staple sort of Mega Gardevoir EX deck, which we've kind of seen in a lot of format right now. So big thing in change we are seeing is the 4-3, then basically a 2-1 split of Gardevoir. Now, the reason why I think it's Rolls, we have a brand new, very powerful Rolls, which is really good for the format. And of course, that really good Curlier as well. Going 10 more additional HP, going to 100, which I don't think is very relevant to get away from like sort of the Rama Cannon from the Ramatam, but most importantly, you can use it to attack, literally for any 3 combination of psychic Pokemon and put them into your hand. It's obviously great. It gets your Gardevoir pieces, gets your Monkey Dory, gets your Mew, Lily's Fairy, so many good key pieces of the deck. Some of the notable new cards it does include is that 4 copies of Lily's Determination. This is so strong in Gardevoir. Normally at first few turns, you aren't really taking prize cards, so you can actually utilize Lily's Determination for full effect. But if you've not taken any prize cards, you can shuffle your hand in and draw until you have, which is 2 more additional cards, which Gardevoir really likes for that setup. And has that new Stadium card as well, which you can start the Psychic Energy, which deals Gardevoir's EX's ability, and draw into the amount of Psychic Pokemon you have in play. So obviously, if you have Serendipity, you can draw up to you have 5. But if you have a whole sort of bench full and the active Pokemon is Psychic, you're drawing to you have 6, which is really, really strong. I do think this deck definitely has changed it a little bit from where we're seeing it. There's no secret box. There has a Screamtail for great attacking option, but no likes of Drifloon or Frottermane or Klefki, which we see in other decks. But it does play likes of a Hero's Cape. I think Hero's Cape is great because checking out from Gardevoir, it now has 460 HP. This is going to be a 3-prize Pokemon. I do think it's going to have a very good relevant sort of damage output. It can be really difficult for some decks to really have that big, easy response to it. Think like Raging Bolt. We have to discard so many energies if you have 460 HP. But always you can check out the Screamtail as well. Yes, it can go up to 190 HP, but now we're not sacrificing one of your Bravery Charms, and you can use a great single price attacking option. What Gardevoir does, obviously, is 50 times the amount of psychic energies you have in play, and you can obviously spread it around this one. I don't think it could be the main attacking option, but it really has elevated Gardevoir to be much more in a better sort of position. But there's also other sort of builds as well, which has like the Drifloon, a 2-2 split version of Gardevoir, and does play the Secret Box and Team Left Roofing. Those which we're kind of like used to see right now in Gardevoir. I think Secret Box is still a good sort of inclusion to play in Gardevoir. I think you're much more players who go with the Team Evo sort of approach, but we're seeing here that the high counts of earlier, but you kind of like utilizing it in the early sort of turns to actually use this attack to search your deck for all these psychic Pokemon to help in that setup. No likes of Lily's Clefairy in this build, kind of like hoping that you can use it. Gardevoir EX to actually get the big one-hit KO, so making Gardevoir EX in the late sort of term, or even likes of a Serendipity for good draw factors in the end. I just think that Gardevoir is in such a good position. Honestly, I think this is going to be the main way to play Gardevoir. We've kind of seen the most popular sort of build, and I think if you are like testing this new format, I think this is going to be the Gardevoir build to play. Or if you generally still love the Secret Box and some Team Evo plays, this is definitely going to be a good one as well. And of course, looking at the other decks as well, Raging Bolt did gain a very good new card, which is Mega Kangaskhan EX. The ability, which is you can only use it once during your turn, but if you extra swap, draw 2 cards. This is very powerful. Just seeing 2 more additional cards is so strong. In the format right now, with Mew, Serendipity, and Mega Kangaskhan, actually, if you have a 0-card hand, you could draw 8 additional cards that turn, which is so powerful right now. Now, this build isn't having likes of the Noctowl build, hence why 2 copies of Mega Kangaskhan and high counts of the Mew. Having all the sort of draw factors is definitely the way to go. Play this one. 3 copies of Crispin means that Kangaskhan can actually attack, and if you check a Bravery Charm, has 350 HP. and does 200 damage base, and basically up until you have until you hit tails, you can do a lot of damage output with this Pokemon, which I think is still really strong. Not only the Charizard, which hits for fighting weakness, can generally be a great sort of response to the likes of other people's Mega Kangaskhan EX, especially in the Raging Ball matchup. And of course, Shinpao, because we saw how powerful that is, especially in the I think it was the junior sort of final. They utilize this one just to kind all your sort of key sort of pieces around this one play. So I think Shin Power is a great sort of inclusion right now for Raging Bolt to get rid of all the liabilities. And most importantly, if you have very damaged sort of Mega Pokemon which goes up 3 prices, just getting rid of this one is really strong. Another deck which definitely seems much more streamlined play is Dragapult. Now, the reason why I feel like this build is much more streamlined is people have really gone back to it saying, well, yeah, Dusknoir is the best version to play of this deck. So it is so powerful, just taking an additional prize card, setting up a checkmate scenario. When it gained Lily's Determination, which is so strong for Dragapult. What I always struggle with Dragapult is the scaling factor. We've kind of gone to more of the researcher factor, and of course Ultra Ball to get our card pieces. We have to discard potentially some very good valuable resources, maybe some energies we need to have, or as boss's orders, or potentially red candy, which we may not really want to give up. So now having Lily's Determination, nullifying the reduce the amount of cards we discard is really strong. And of course, we could be a checkmate scenario. I've done one thing at EUIC where I got to win and take all 6 prize cards in one turn. So effectively, getting full effect of Lily's Determination for double turns is really strong. Now, of course, I play the Hilda and Brock Scouting. Good way to go the item lock, especially search the deck for our bold Pokemon. And the NG split is exactly the same what we saw, which got second place at the World Championships. The 2-2-1 split of Dusknoir is again the most straightforward line. And only going to 2 Dragapult definitely could be a little bit low. I don't really consider this working, especially with the higher counts of Night Stretcher. I love Dragapult in this new format. Lily's Determination, been like with Hilda, we've had 2 very powerful cards which really unlocked Dragapult, so we're not discarding some key pieces and guaranteeing to get the cards we need. Charizard EX, again, hasn't really gained too many things, except the likes of Lily's Determination, also relevant hitting for weakness. We've seen the likes of Golden do really well, hence the MGU, Gardevoir doing really well, hence Charizard EX for a main attacking option, and Dusknoir to do additional damage output. This deck is absolutely poised to do incredibly well. The one copy of Mixing Belt is so strong right now in this sort of format. Of course, for that ace spec, making sure we're taking more prizes we're actually doing additional damage to take those additional prizes to fuel up Dragonbolt's Charizard's attack, which I think is really good. Apologies for that, because it's got a bit muddled up right now. I think Charizard is in a great sort of position. The Mixing Belt, the Lily's Determination, Dusknoir line, it makes this deck absolutely perfect and poised for this metagame. They're still playing the Briar. We saw how powerful Briar was over in the World Championships. And we can definitely see it kind of like become the main stay in Charizard before we get Mega Charizard X in a few months' time. Golden again, didn't really gain too many things, but a good thing we can talk about is we do get the release of Psyduck finally for us. Having released of Psyduck, make sure we can actually have a good matchup against the Dragapult Dusknoir build, which this deck can definitely really struggle. Still key piece as well. Over in Japan, they're still playing the 1-1 line of Sizzle. This was obviously after last week, so potentially they may not be having sort of our meta game really yet. We're playing like the Baby Golden and we've kind of strayed away from the Sizzle for us one. So that's a good sort of turning point around us. Again, we are seeing the multiple copies of Gimmighoul, so we're playing the every single copy of this one. The Flush Main is a great way to shut up abilities, but most importantly, that Psyduck is perfect against the likes of Dusknoirs and even Magnetons as well to stop out a very cheeky Iron Hand, which could potentially come out of nowhere in a Miraidon Mega Electric deck. So again, didn't really gain too many good things, but definitely need to remember that we do have Psyduck again now. Mine's Grimmsnarl, again, the deck has basically been on fraud alert, I feel like, for the last few weeks, especially after the World Championships. I do think it's still a very strong deck. The only tricky thing is right now is we're in a big Monkey Royal War, and effectively the deck really works well with Frostfest putting through damage counters on. This Gardevoir is basically nearly 20% of the metagame. We don't really want to be playing into that sort of deck where they can just fling all the damage back out and fuel their own adrenaline brains. We do gain likes of Lily's Determination. Saying goodbye to likes of research, we can actually go to much more higher sort of aggressive sort of draw factor. We're saying goodbye to aggressive draw factor, and we're keeping a lot of pieces. We're not discarding any of these key ones. That's one thing, again, similar like the Charizard, similar Dragapult, if that can really struggle with the early sort of game, we could be really aggressive in your discard effect. So having that Lily's Determination definitely is going to make Mario's Grimmsnarl a much stronger sort of deck right now. Number one, let's finally look at some new decks, and that is Mega Lucario, which generally I feel like, apart from First Antipathy, for instance, an entirely new card which we will get in Mega Evolution. So the 3-3 line of Mega Lucario is really strong. 340 HP, 2 incredible attacks. The first one do 130 damage, and get to attack up to 3 fighting energies, to Pokemon any way you like on the pitch. And its other attack does 270 damage for 2 fighting energy, and you can't play this card its next turn. So honestly, this is still really strong right now. Teaming up with likes of Power 8, now you can do additional more damage. Chuck 2 Power 8s out, now suddenly the first attack is now doing 190 damage for 1 fighting energy on a free prize Pokemon, and you get to Energy Accelerate, so you powered up another Mega Lucario to go. This card is incredibly powerful. It's great gusting with the 2-2 line of Hariyama, and good draw factor as well, the Lunatone Soul Rock combination. Lunatone has the ability where if you have a Soul Rock in play, you get to discard a basic energy and draw 3 cards. Granted, you can only play one of these per turn, but Team Likes with Serendipity, the potential could be drawing 6 cards whenever one of your Pokemon is knocked out. Now, Soul Rock is still a great sort of attacking option as well, semi-damage for 1 energy, which I do think is really strong. And of course, the Psyduck as well, which we're definitely going to see a lot more of and can actually finally talk about as we are gaining in the Mega Evolution format, protecting all of our guys. Now, we are very big high HP basics, so of course, we can have the likes of the Fighting Gonk and Nestball to actually get out our Pokemon. Fighting Gonk makes you such for either basic fighting energy or basic fighting Pokemon, which are obviously great in this saga, when most of our basic Pokemon have 80 HP or more. And other new cards as well is of course that Leaves Determination, shuffling in your hand and drawing to have 6, or you can have 8 if you have prize cards. Next about is a great aspect this deck has to offer. So now all of a sudden the base attack on Mega Empire is 1. The last attack does 320 damage, which carries most things. 2 power raids, you're basically carrying everything in the format, which I think is really strong. I think this deck definitely has a lot of potential. It may be worried because it is Psychic weak, so obviously Gardevoir is 20% metagame. This obviously hitting for weakness and basically gave me a 3 mixture for Gardevoir. But honestly, having a deck which actually focuses purely on some of the new sort of format and actually works overall is really strong. But it isn't the only fighting that we're going to talk about. The other new Mega deck, which is having a lot of buzz, is Mega Venusaur, and rightly so. At 380 HP, which is the highest HP right now in this format, your ability making you move your grass energies as often as you like. And attack does 240 damage. But what makes it great is its partner Pokemon. Of course, the Meganium, which for every grass energy attached to your active Pokemon, it is basically 2 grass energies. The almost Ogre Point is a great sort of energy acceleration to fuel the likes of Venusaur's ability, but also can fuel our main attacking option. Where if we have 3 grass energies attached to our almost Ogre Point in the active spot, with Meganium on bench, it's got 6 energies attached to this one, which is a huge amount of damage output this deck can have to offer. One line of Toedscruel is perfect as well for our deck. It's an amazing way for limiting opponent from getting any card back in the discard pile, like Superior Entry, Retreat, Stretcher, all of that sort of stuff, like Negating that is really strong. And of course, we have some amazing new cards as well. Lush Forest as well, making sure we can pretty much evolve the grass Pokemon all the way to the highest stage from our second turn onwards, which is really strong. How can we get our guides using the likes of the Nestball's Ultra Ball, but of course that bug catching set, getting grass energies and grass Pokemon. Laser Determination to shuffle in, and we have 6. This deck has everything to offer. No good starting factor, and we're definitely seeing that a lot more with Laser Determination. With potentially the release of Professor's Research rotating when we get our next sort of format, I think Laser Determination is going to be a huge increase and big staple going forward. So if you haven't when it gets released, definitely pick up multiple playsets because it's going to be a very powerful card. And of course, that Max Rod is a way to recover any of our energy cards, but it's also our Pokemon as well, which I think is really strong. Of course, this hits for very little weakness against likes of Gardevoir decks, Darkness decks, which Gardevoir can have a great time. So it's a fun little triangle this deck can really go into. I really love Mega Venusaur and generally think it's going to be a huge powerhouse moving forward. Has a lot of HP, has a ton of energy acceleration. Most importantly, you can get all the guys out, have a 380 HP monster as early as your second turn. Zero Edge is a deck which gained a lot of stuff just from release of 3 new cards. One thing I found about this deck, it definitely did struggle a lot in this format. And kind of like didn't really know where to find itself after release, after Palkia V-Star rotated, but now it's kind of gained a really good partner in the likes of this Soul Rock Lunatone combination. I mentioned it before in Lucario, but with that Lunatone, when you discard a fighter energy and drawing 3 cards is perfect. This deck now has a great sort of draw factor and not relying on likes of Serendipity or potentially any of the likes of MeWX as well. So you have a pretty good inbuilt draw factor. Having the Fighting Bonk, having also the likes of Research, Carmine, as well as also Brilliant Blender, you can get all your energies into this card much early on and have a really good draw sort of factor in the early sort of game with a single prize draw as well. Yes, you give up 2 bench spaces, but the deck has a lot of freedom, as you can see here, with a very thin and Pokemon line, so I do think it works very well in this format. I really like this deck. I think it gained a lot more, and generally I'm excited to see how this really go forward in the meta game moving forward. Now, my favorite deck in the new set is Mega Manectric. For those who don't know, Mega Manectric X is actually the original one from Phantom Forces. It's one of my favorite cards ever printed, and a deck which I have a huge, huge soft spot for. So when I saw it was returning, I would make sure this would be my main Mega deck of choice, and I think this deck has a lot of potential. First of all, it works really well in the Miraidon package. Yes, I know Miraidon may not have done too well at the World Championships, but I think it's actually going to be in a great spot in the Mega Evolution set. Now, of course, you have the main sort of package option as well. You have Zekrom with a great it's two-prize attacking option in the late game, doing basically what Megametric can do for 3 energies when your opponent's taking 4 prize cards. And the plus side is you're not discarding any energies, which I think is really great. Iron Hands is great because obviously it's perfect to get that just more prize card in the early sort of game against one of your opponent's very low HP basic Pokemon. Now we have the Venusaur energy acceleration options with a 2-2 line of electric, and of course a 1-1 line of magneton as well, which is great for the late game and early game aggression as well. Plus, Amulet Zero Aura as well, it's a great single prize attacking option. Make sure that none of your opponent's basic EX Pokemon are safe from it. I think this deck is just a lot of fun. It has a main sort of poise about most sort of lightning decks. High amount of light energy. Having an Academy at night is a perfect stadium card because make sure we can actually activate the electric generation and actually get that additional energy card, which we really might require. Of course, high gap plots, scene effects, and no real like determination because this deck wants to be aggressive and wants stuff in the discard pile. Right, this wants to be as fast as possible and a huge turbo. I think Mega Manectric is perfect, doing 120 damage on what we attack by basic Pokemon. And the other attack, if you discard all your energies, doing 330 damage for 3 energies is still really, really strong. I really love this deck and I really hope it does well. I think it might be a little bit more on the fringe rogue side, but I think it is absolutely perfect. Another deck which gained a huge, huge buff from the new set is Cynthia's Garchomp, which basically goes from Rogue to Meta pretty much overnight. It gained 4 new incredibly powerful cards. If you don't know what Symphasum Gardevoir does, I've talked about it a lot, and you can see gameplay on my channel. Honestly, it's basically Mega Lucario, but just a little bit weaker. It does 400 damage, 1 fight energy, draw energy 6, and your attack does 260 damage, but you can't use the attack next turn for 2 fighting. One thing that's great is you have with Rosalia and Resurrect, so once you get Rosalia out, you get your slate for this Pokemon do 30 more damage. So effectively, if you've got 2 of these out, you're doing an additional 60 more damage, which can make sure you can hit for some good relevant weakness. Now, with the likes of Fire Raid, Symphasum Gardevoir do additional more damage. So if we have all these Rose Raids out, we can play all our fighting Power Raids straight away. That's additional 90 damage from Rose Raid, and additional 220 damage from our Power Raid. That's a lot of additional damage output that now this deck has to offer. Fighting Gonk, make sure we can get our energies out much easier, much earlier on. So that's also our Gibbles as well. And of course, that leads to Determination. It's a deck which doesn't like to discard a lot of stuff, so of course this is perfect. And having 2 copies of Lost Chunkle, make sure that we can really prioritize our Cynthia's Garchomp in the early sort of game. And then once we get to the mid game, turn 2 onwards, we can effectively just go ham and find all our guys out, Rosa Raids from our Buddy Buddy Puffin, and get Roselia's out. Sorry, Roselia's out from Buddy Buddy Puffin, and Rosa Raids potentially from our Dabbles. I just really like this one. Having a 1-1 line of Toedscruel, stopping anything from getting good recovery cards from your opponent's side, like that nice stretcher. Cookie focused on by the end, but it's not that anymore. Like the likes of Superior Angel Retrieval. I just think this card is so inclusive right now and could be in a lot of archetypes moving forward. This deck definitely picks a huge punch right now, and think as it doesn't actually hit, doesn't get hit from Psychic Weakness, this potentially could definitely outclass like Mega Lucario in the future. I really, really, really like this sort of deck, and as you know, I love Owner's Pokemon. This I think is a great sort of mainstay going forward. Some of the new cards as well gain a new sort of powerful attacking option is that Archadon, which gains likes of Mega Marwell EX. Does 80 damage times the amount of prize cards you've taken. Now again, we haven't really seen this effect in most sort of things. We can always see it on the opponent's sort of side, but effectively you're going to be doing additional 320 damage for 2 Ritual Energies, which easily be accelerated from Archadon when you've taken 4 prize card, is really, really strong. Of course, we do have that new metal stadium card to play. With a Gardevoir Pokemon, whichever Pokemon gets put in play, get put them damage counters on this one, you can use Monkey Story to fling it all back at the opponent, which I think is really, really strong. Now in the Hero Escape, make sure you have 400 HP on Archadon, which can be really difficult to actually get a big one-hit kill unless you are a fighting type, fire type Pokemon, which only one right now is Ceruledge. We haven't really seen either Typhlosion or Eeveebox actually have a good showing in the Mega Evolution format. And I think Mega Marwell is a good sort of deck inclusion for Archadon and potentially could push it into being a much more competitive choice. And finally, the last deck I want to talk about is End Zoroark, which only really gained likes of Determination, but I think it gains a great position in the metagame. And I saw it was only 2% of this Champions City League last week, the Gym Challenge last week. So I can see generally this deck kind of like increase a lot more after this very impressive 2 top 8 placements in the Masters top 8, as well as also getting second place by Gabriel Fernandez in the Seniors World Championships. So I generally could see this deck definitely increase a lot. It's returned to have the likes of Draole as your other main attacking option. As everything we're still talking about right now, there is no shaming right now. So bench protection is open for game. So I do really like that Draole is a great inclusion right now. I think Lily's determination is great. We aren't discarding any key pieces. And effectively, we can use this one to draw into you have 6 cards and not getting rid of any of the key pieces we really do require. I love Venusaur. I love how Oni's Pokemon are still kind of going strong, but they're just not as powerful as they once were. We're already seeing how good Mega Pokemon really are. And so dominating the format right now and definitely leaving your Oni's Pokemon in the darkness. So that comes up to the end of looking ahead. And the big thing I want to talk about is can anything really beat Gardevoir? Now, I know I talked a lot about the other decks as well, but Gardevoir is still up there as the amazing pinnacle to Archadon. The amazing Mega Symphony do 50 damage times the amount of Psychic Energy attached to all of your Pokemon, which is so strong. When you have 6 amount play doing 300 damage is incredibly high amounts of damage output this has to offer. And joining the other 2 key cards and pieces really does make regular Gardevoir just even stronger. I think the world's metagame will really impact this. I think we could see a huge increase in more Gardevoir and definitely more of the Darkness decks as well, similar to like of Zoroark and Golden Gate potentially could say goodbye to Scizor and kind of go to the other sort of version of the deck as well. I think could be much stronger. Overall, I think right now Megas are a little bit healthy to the game. We're obviously seeing all the Mega Pokemon really kind of out and everything being Gardevoir, Lucario, Venusaur, and Mega Manectric. But Gardevoir is definitely up at the very top, but regular Gardevoir already was at the top as well. So it didn't really change too much, just elevated a certain archetype. I'm excited to see exactly where the format will go. And I like to see it's not just a pure Mega Evolution format, where the others of the A tier list, the 10 to 5% decks, are actually not any Mega decks. So, for you guys to enjoy this video, I'll next week discussing some of the other new cards as well that got revealed, plus also how the metagame has really shifted in the Mega Evolution format. I'll be back in a few days' time for more short and Mega Evolution talking about. I'll see you guys in the future. For now.